Thanks for coming on, man.
Pleasure, man.
Good to see you, mate. Good to see you.
You too.
Good result yesterday for West Brom.
Yeah, it was a good result. Obviously, it would have been nice to have won the game, but we went down to 10 men, got ahead, and they equalised in the last few minutes. But top of the table at the minute, so we just need to keep the momentum going.
I see that, mate. I see it. Yeah, great result. Especially down to 10 men as well. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. It's
we got footage of the goal, haven't we?
Yeah.
It's a bit early on, but let's watch his goal, man, because
let's do it.
I was pretty impressed with this. Here he is.
It's Robson-Kanu. Oh, what a goal!
Right. Weaker foot as well.
Yeah.
Robson-Kanu. Benton of beauty.
I mean, like, just for. Oh, mate. Great finish.
Cheers, mate.
Just when I go into prisons and I do talks and stuff, you meet a lot of young kids who are sort of talented footballers, but then take the wrong path in life, and they'd probably be watching it and being like, "How does that feel?" Like, you've just curled that in, and you're running over to I don't know, 10, 20,000 screaming fans. Like,
yeah, it's hard to describe. A lot of footballers will say, scoring a goal is the best feeling in their life, and it's like it is in terms of like the elation that you feel, the fans like just going crazy. You see on social media afterwards, and it's like we just scored, and I lost my coffee cup, I lost my drink, arms flailing everywhere, and it's an incredible feeling, and I think football's one of those industries where there's just so much passion in it. As you said, it's like every kid's dream is to become a professional footballer, and to obviously actually experience it is very unique, definitely.
Is it something you always wanted to do, like from a young age? It was like, that's just the goal, I just want to be a footballer? Yeah.
As young as I can remember, really, like obviously carrying around balls, kicking balls, with my dad, with my granddad, with my brothers, and it's like I remember sort of being 5 or 6, and I was at my grand's house, and it was like, what do you want to do when you're when you're older? And I was like, I want to be a footballer. And she was like, what do you want to do when you're older? When you're I was like, no, I want to be a footballer. And it's like, obviously that's 25 years ago now when you think about it, and it's even in that time football's developed a lot, and it's still going to develop further. And in terms of industries and professions, it's 100% one of the best professions to have.
Yeah, man. Yeah, was your dad or your granddad ever sort of involved in football or sport in any way, or was it?
Yeah, I mean, like, it's always, my dad was pretty sporty. He played football back in Nigeria, but he broke his leg sort of as a teenager. And my granddad, obviously, he had a famous uncle called Pop Robson, who was a Geordie and played for Newcastle, in fact. And so it's always sort of been in amongst it, but actually making it happen and becoming a professional footballer in this day and age is, I suppose, it's quite different to sort of wanting just to do it. It's it takes a lot. It takes a lot.
Yeah, I think that is a thing, because I had some friends growing up who was good at football. Even my little brother, he was great. He was at Chelsea Academy. But with a lot of people, you get to like a certain age where it's like girls, alcohol, drugs, and you sort of, probably a lot of talent goes missing in the UK, I think, when you're growing up in certain neighbourhoods,
100%. When I look back at my time at Arsenal, signed for Arsenal as a 10-year-old, I saw some unbelievable talents. Unbelievable. I remember Jack Wilshere when he was 3 years younger than me, and he'd play up every so often, and he was good, but there were boys better than him.
Wow.
And if you've not got the right environment around you, and a lot of what I've learned growing up and maturing around the impact that your environment has on yourself, if you don't have that at an early stage where you're you're easily manipulated because you're almost like a putty, like whatever you get hit with, it impacts you. You haven't built a strong enough internal environment to combat an external environment. And I think that's the big issue, where these kids have all of the talent, but like you said, they get hit with a negative situation, or they get hit with something which takes their curiosity, whether it's alcohol, girls, staying up late, going out, and those temptations ultimately can lead them astray, and they do.
Yeah, it's sad, really, because I see a lot of it in the prison work I do. Young kids who have played, like one of them was Arsenal Academy as well, and sort of without that support from mum, dad, it's tough, right? I mean, it's tough making it as it is. You know this, right? Even if you have got the support from mum and dad, let alone if it's not there. So
yeah, of course. I was I was 14, 15, released from Arsenal because I was too small. So I didn't have a growth spurt until I was 15, 16. And so as a 14-year-old, I was probably half a foot smaller than every other player in the team. Wow. And we had some, this is the top academy in the country. So we had boys who were physically mature, strong, sort of almost ready for first team at that level. And I was still very much, my hormones hadn't kicked in yet to take me through my, the growth spurt and maturing. So I got released as a 14, 15-year-old. And, I remember sitting in the car crying with my dad. And I'm crying there. My dad's like, no one's experienced that sort of thing before. Yeah. I remember Liam Brady, who was academy manager at the time. He was like, in the meeting, he said, "You've probably got one of the best left foots, in the academy, but we just don't think physically you're going to be able to crack it at a top level." And obviously a bit of naivety from them, because they're basing it off there and then. They're not looking at how you're going to mature in your, as you're going through your teens and maturing then. So within a year, I had grown about a foot, matured out. Obviously I signed for Reading soon after that, was in the academy there, and we played Arsenal in a game under 16s, and I tore it apart. Arsenal were like, we want him back. Like we made a mistake. We want him back. And then at that time, it was like, Reading were pushing me, one of the top talents in the country, and that was when I obviously began playing with, in a reserve team football, and I think is crazy. At sort of 15, and playing with effectively men. So that was when I got pushed forward, and it was great for me, but at the same time, obviously, I had the issues that I had.
Yeah, of course. So I'm just thinking, like, age 14, Arsenal tell you you're too small. Like, dealing with that sort of, it's like rejection, isn't it? It's like sort of, which I can't comprehend as a 14-year-old, how you wrap your head around. I'm presuming like having dad there was just like a massive support, but it does highlight the thing. If you had, I wonder how many kids get that rejection, go home and don't have that support. And where'd you go with that? Because it's a massive thing when that's all you've dreamed of all your life. Like, how did you get through it? Was it really just your dad, like, just being really supportive, and your mum just saying, "Don't give up, son, we believe in you," sort of thing? Yeah,
it's it's difficult. Like, it's sort of having that self-belief, and it's hard to say, like, how can a 14-year-old have that self-belief? And it's like, well, yeah, okay, then, sort of the discipline that had sort of been instilled in me as a kid growing up with my childhood, that helped me, because it was like, okay, well then, I still want to become a footballer. I still want to do it. Like, just because, one club has said that you might not be able to do it, then it doesn't mean that you there's not other clubs out there. So it was almost beginning to understand, to take the positives from a negative situation. And obviously at that moment in time, you're not actually thinking that coherently, but you're just sort of putting the pieces of the puzzles together to come out of the other side in a way where you can move forward and move forward in a positive direction. Yeah. And that's what, I was able to do.
That's great. I mean, that alone as a piece of advice for any young kid watching who is, maybe face some rejection is like, sometimes the best thing that never happens, it can be a blessing.
Precisely.
You can actually turn it into a positive. I remember I had it when I was about a year sober. I was training to drive a lorry and I'd saved up all my money to take a lorry test and passed the test in practice loads of times, and then came to the exam day and failed it straight away. And I remember I was like a year sober and I was looked up to like God. I was like, fuck you, man. Like, cut me a break. Yeah. I'm really trying here. Yeah. And it was like, thank God I never got my lorry license because I would never be where I am today.
There you go.
So a real blessing, man.
There you go.
So you're at Reading, you're playing with men now. So I'm guessing sort of, physically it's harder, mentally as well, because they're sort of, more experienced. Yeah. How was that?
I was loving it. Like, it was Reading were pushing me forward. They were talking about me making my debut sort of, in a year's time, as soon as I'd, come in full time, left school, and obviously had, the England youth teams looking at me as well. Obviously being, born in London, but obviously had Welsh heritage alongside that. And it was good. Played a number of games in the reserves. Got to the winter months, sort of October time, and we were playing away at Milton Keynes, and it was a reserve game. I didn't start the game, but I came on sort of half time, immediately made an impact. Sharp, got on the ball, moved it a few times, created a few chances, and they had a big centre half who was probably 6'4", 6'5", and I'd embarrassed him a few times, and within 5 minutes, and the ball's literally popped into midfield. I've dropped off, gone to control it, and then all of a sudden I just felt an impact in the left side of my knee. My left knee's given way, touched my right knee. My right knee's popped out, and I'm literally laying on the floor. Didn't even know what happened. Centre half had basically just thought, I'm going to do this little kid. He's embarrassing, us in the game, and that was the first time that I ruptured my cruciate knee ligament in my left knee. And
how old was you then?
15.
Wow, blimey! And how old was centre half?
Would have been 23, 24.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So I guess that must be a part of football that not all of us. You sort of see it on the telly, but on the pitch. Is if you're too good and someone gets the ump,
Yeah, particularly at that, there's sort of, there's not many cameras around, and you can get away with it at that, in those sorts of games. And I had no idea what had happened. I had no idea that I'd be spending a year out of the game. I had no idea that I'd need a surgery.
Did you know when it happened? When you went down, did you think, shit, this is bad? Could you feel it in your knee? This feels, because obviously you take tumbles, knocks and bumps in football games, but did you know sort of this feels a little bit like something else?
Yeah, apart from the fact that my knee was like the size of that box.
Bloody hell, right. Okay.
Swollen, and it was, I knew something wasn't right, but I had no concept of, serious injuries or long-term injuries at that time, still only being a kid. And it was only the week after where, you have to try and let the swelling subside. Swelling doesn't disappear. So you go, obviously, have the scan and see the surgeon, and went to a surgeon, one of the top surgeons in the country at the time in Windsor. And he basically told me that I'd tore my cruciate knee ligament, cartilage, damaged, medial ligament gone, and it's like, okay, you're gonna, be out for a year. And it's sort of, when he's talking to you, he's like giving it to you, and I'm thinking like, this doesn't sound good. Like, okay, well, a year, but I'll get back from this, right? And he's sort of like, not really positive about it. And I'm thinking, wow, okay, well, just, it's something where it's just out of the norm.
Yeah.
And so had the surgery, had 3-4 months of rehabilitation, trying to get the knee moving again, and after about 10 months began getting back onto the pitch, and obviously pain in the knee, but I'm told that that's it's fine. And pretty much about a year after the first injury happened, I was playing in the game again, and I've literally just gone to swing and strike the ball, and this time there was no contact. My knee just literally rotated and snapped again, and it was that was difficult, because I sort of knew at the time, well, this isn't right, and you're thinking another 12 months, and from going from one of the top talents in the country to being on the sidelines for over 2 years, in the key years of becoming and trying to become a professional footballer, definitely the toughest experience I'd experienced in my life.
Yeah, geez, I mean, I just felt a real sadness when you tell that story. The second time around, there's no contact, but you're like, something you must have gone, oh, not again, not again. Having spent all that time like recovering, and obviously, there's probably loads of stuff that most people don't see goes on in the recovery of a football player, every day. I just feel for you, mate. Yes.
But so it was at that time where I've gone back to the same surgeon, and it's like done it again, like and this time he's even more somber, and I only find out years later that he says to my dad after the surgery is complete, look, like he should probably look at a different career path.
Right.
He's not going to play at the level that he is going to play at, and he's always going to play in pain. That was the big thing. He's never going to feel free, and so
your dad didn't give you that data. He held it back.
He gave it to me a little when I look back, he was talking to me a little bit about things, and at the time I was just, dismissive of it. I was like, no, like, I'll get back. I'll get back. Like,
because I'm guessing for your dad, he must have been thinking, if I give this to him now, he's going to floor him, which it would any kid, combined with the injury itself as well.
Yeah. So start the journey again, and this time round, it's like, okay, cool. Like, I was even more thorough with the training. I began even looking outside of the club in terms of how can you get back fit? How can you strengthen, like, a knee? Like, what are the key muscles that support a knee? And that was sort of my dive into information, so to speak. I began sort of like self-educating myself, and because it was my body at the end of the day, and no matter what anyone told me, it was how I was feeling, it was what I was experiencing. So I took the time, and I began finding golden nuggets around movement and around strength, which wasn't readily accessible, and sort of the norm at the time, in terms of how we move, and what muscles we are firing when you're running or changing direction, and then it was sort of like my paradigm sort of began to shift, because it was sort of away from the structure and what we were being told. So it was a little bit weird. It's like, well, why don't we have this information? Anyway, towards the end of getting back the second time round, I was just playing in pain constantly. So I was running, training, gym. Every time I was moving, it was pain. And this was sort of 10, 11 months after the second surgery, and it was like, yeah, but that's what it's going to be like. And it's like, well, if that's going to be like, I can't. So it was like, well, there is a solution, and it's painkillers, so, okay, well, if you're telling me that as a, doctor, physio, just give me the painkillers, like, so I'll take them, and took them, and they had an impact. Like, it wasn't as severe. And I probably, was popping them for 2-3 months, like Smarties almost.
But it didn't completely kill the pain.
No, of course,
helped,
it was just masking it. It was just masking it.
Yeah.
But the issue was that I then began having adverse effects to these painkillers. Right. So I started passing blood in my urine. I started having, nausea in and around, training and after games, and, constant headaches. And it's like, well, like it's coming from these painkillers, but I can't not take them because then I'll play with pain. And it got to a point where I just couldn't continue taking the painkillers, so I had to stop. So it was at that point where it was like, I need to find a solution. Like, there must be something which you can do, consume, that actually has a natural impact on pain or pain relief or inflammation in the body. And
how old were you at this point? So you're like 17?
17, yes.
17. So you've been through like all of this, and you're still just 17. Do you know what I mean? It's a lot to go through in a career, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you're so young.
Yeah, of course. And alongside that, getting back into the pressures of actually trying to become a footballer, because when you're a young athlete, you're judged constantly.
Yeah.
Like, football is just literally like you're being judged every single time you train, you play, and that's why the rewards are so great, because if you can hit those standards, then there's very few people who can, becoming a professional footballer. It's actually, the statistics show that it's harder to become a professional footballer in the UK in the top 4 leagues than it is to go to Oxford or Cambridge.
Wow.
And it's like, well, yeah, it's a demanding industry, and obviously it does take its toll. So, but yeah, so I'm in this predicament, and it was like at that time when I was literally turned to my dad, and I remember I was about finished the game, in severe pain, have gone to go up the stairs, and I couldn't walk up the stairs. That's how painful my knee was.
Wow.
And we were just like, there must be a solution. And
so the painkillers, like, they're just, now they're not cutting it. The pain is that bad. Yeah, they're just not even working now.
And obviously I've literally had to make a decision to stop taking them as well. So
that's what I mean. Just for me to, like, because we're not talking like painkillers you'll go and buy in Superdrug. Obviously, you've got like a professional medical team from the football club that have gone, take this and this. So I guess in my mind, I would think these would definitely work, because they're coming from someone who's clearly medically trained at a high level, that he does it for a professional football team.
Yeah. But the strange thing is that some of those painkillers are now actually banned.
Oh, okay, right.
And it's like, well, that makes you think even more, like, how were they even allowed? So then it was, and that was what sort of kicked me off on this journey of finding information around natural nutrition. It was like, well, and at that time it was sort of like, well, it wasn't readily accepted that what you eat has a direct impact on your health and on your well-being and even on your mental state. It wasn't really that acknowledged or studied. It was like, well, if you want to be healthy, have a bowl of pasta.
So back then, it would have been like 2011 or something like that? When that was when this was all going on?
No, it was 2007, 2006,
2007. So back then, there was no like organic food, eat this healthy food. There was no this superfood stuff.
Nah,
it was like, take a tablet and shut up.
Literally, yeah. And so it was like, well, we just started doing research, and at that time as well, it wasn't like on the internet the wealth of information that there is today. It was like little bits and pieces, and we came across this like manual on herbs as medicines, and it was like, it's an extensive manual, and I've got it on PDF now still, and it's like 300 pages long, and it goes through every single, like.
Where did you find it?
Just
you and your dad found it somewhere?
Yeah, it was like, I think it was like we'd researched it, heard around, like, we began going down herbs and fruits with like polyphenols and like anti-inflammatory properties, and then we were speaking to a few suppliers, like in a few like health food stores, and they just recommended it, but you couldn't get your hands on it, and we ended up finding it in the local library, and it was really extensive, and it covered everything. So it was like, for example, pineapples, like the bromelain in pineapples, and the pomegranates, the antioxidants in pomegranates, and it was like, watermelon, the fact that watermelon is, base of water, but is one of the most nutritious forms of, fresh fruit available. And then, and then it took us to ginger, and it was like ginger, like with just unbelievable properties to support everything from, digestion to nausea to, and obviously to pain relief too. And then we subsequently came to turmeric, and it was like at this time, no idea, like turmeric, like what is turmeric? Like you think it's a powder. And that's funny, like even now when we speak to people now, it's like, well, what have you seen turmeric before? They're like, no, I don't know what it looks like. And so we basically did this massive deep dive into all of these ingredients, and we're like, well, we've got nothing to lose, we have to give it a go. So
did the club you were playing for, so you were still at Reading, did they like sort of have any sort of say in any of this? Were they sort of like, no, you have to keep taking these tablets, or were they like, you're willing to, you're allowed to try alternative treatment sort of thing?
I had no other choice, and
so you were just like, mate, I'm done with these tablets.
Yeah,
like,
literally,
it's making me proper sick.
Yeah, and
so this must have been like finding little golden nuggets. You and your dad going through this like Bible of superfoods. Yeah.
And so within a week, we'd got this blend, and we're like, blending it up. It was a paste, it was a juice, a liquid, and eventually we got it to like a shot form.
Yeah.
And it tasted disgusting, and it was like bitty and grainy, but we tried it, and I tried it, and it was like, never experienced that before in my life. Like different, like you felt something, and it's like, well, let's do it, let's run with it. And
what, you felt it almost like instantly?
Yeah, I felt like something with it where I hadn't had that level of nutrition, like that super rich combination before, and it was like,
so your body was almost going, give me more of this. That was like your body's reaction was
precisely,
like, this is what I need.
Precisely. And literally, so had that, and then for 2 months, 2-3 of these a day, like constantly.
And your dad was like helping you mix them up.
Yeah,
and stuff,
my dad was helping mix them up.
What
and,
a legend.
Drop them up. Yeah, incredible. And it was like, I was noticing gradually like difference. I was like, okay, like not as much pain today. Like, okay, yeah, I felt a little bit. I think my knee's a little less swollen. And after about 3 months of doing it regularly, literally woke up one day, got out of bed, just walked to the shower, and I was like, I was in the shower, and I was like, whoa. Every day up until that point for 18 months, every time I got up out of bed and walked to the shower, I was in pain. And that was the first day I didn't experience it.
Wow.
And it wasn't...
So in your head, were you thinking, this can't be right? Because you think you've spent from like 15 to 17 like with living with this pain. Was there a bit of you going, it must just be one day, I've just got a day off of it or something? Yeah.
And it wasn't like the pain didn't disappear. I went to training, trained, and it was like, okay, well, that's a lot better.
Yeah.
And it was like, and you're right, I was in that sort of state, and so I began sort of like testing it for myself. So I would go like 2 weeks without having them,
right?
And sort of see what happened.
Yeah.
Instantly come back.
Wow.
And it would like be a little bit more swelling, build up, and then it's swollen, and it's like, and then I just get back on them like, no, we need to try again. And it was a revelation for me, because it was like understanding that actually what you put into your body has a direct impact on your health. And I think that's an area where for whatever reason you look at the scientific research around natural foods as medicines, it's limited, it's minimal, and you're like, well, why? Like, how can that be when we're so advanced in so many areas around the world? It's like, well, the basic primal source of nutrition, food, hasn't been researched to a level of a scientific grade where we're like, well, we know this has this impact in, this effect on the body. And it's like 15 years later, now we're beginning to see clinical studies on turmeric and on other ingredients, which are beginning to support what I had experienced.
Yeah.
And it's...
Have you ever heard of a guy called Dr. Sebi? Yeah, I mean, he done some interesting stuff around this, didn't he, back in the day? But, I can't remember what happened with him, but that just sort of got shut down a little bit, didn't it? It wasn't, you know.
Yeah.
I think the pharmaceuticals, it's like a business, isn't it? I mean, you must feel some sort of thing because you've gone down that route. And
it's more just like knowing, and like for me, it's what I want to do now is just, you know, offer this to as many people as possible. It's for us, from our perspective, we're certainly not saying, you know, it's a medicine or it's a, you know, it's a drug or drug replacement. What we're saying is this is just natural nutrition, and we've perfected it for us. We've got it into blends which, you know, our people are enjoying, and that I have experienced benefits from. And you know, we want people to begin using and enjoying them in everyday life, because and that's where we're going. It's like, it's more just around that natural nutrition and supporting that. And you know, you even look at things like, you know, the veganism at the minute, and understanding like around, you know, high quality food sources as opposed to processed foods. You know, you look at the processed fast food industry in, say, America, massive.
Yeah,
they're feeding the populations out there, but they're also causing a lot of the issues which we're experiencing health-wise now. So I feel like it's almost at a time where we're in a sea change on nutrition, health, lifestyle, well-being. And for us, you know, at the Turmeric Co, this is the values that we have, and this is what we're trying to do.
I think, like, just to give people listening some context on the Turmeric Co, this is your company, you set it up. Your dad it was interesting when you shared this story when we met, that when your dad used to make this paste up in the house, turmeric is a very messy thing to work with. It stains, it gets everywhere, and it's like a difficult thing to work with yourself, right? And you had this moment when you went into a shop, I can't remember if it was Harrods or somewhere like that, and you saw bottled turmeric, and you had this. I'll let you tell the story. Tell the story, because you tell it. You know it better than me.
No, it was. So it's probably 3.5, 4 years ago now, and obviously I'd been having these shots, and these shots had become my sort of secret weapon. Yeah. Just to, obviously, like, health, well-being, but for professional performance. Yeah. It was what was helping me recover quicker. Right. Okay. You know, we'd have a game, come in the next day, lads would be like, "Oh, I'm stiff, you know, I'm aches and pains." I'll just be like, "No, I'm all right, I'm okay." Nice. So it was sort of like my secret weapon, which I was using just for myself. And then it became a case where, okay, like, my teammates would see me drinking this, you know, golden, like, orange liquid. Yeah. After games, before, you know, after training to help me recover, and they'd be like, "What is that?" So I'd be like, "Yeah, it's just a turmeric shot." They'd be like, "What's turmeric?" It's like, just try it. So they began trying it, and they were like, how do we get more of this? Like, where do I'm like, okay, cool. So, you know, call my dad, like, "Can you make a few more of those things?" Like, I just want to give them to a few of the boys. Like, they want some. So they began getting on it, and then it was like, it became sort of like a family, you know, secret recipe, in that if any friends or any extended family members were sick or unwell or had the flu, be like, send them some shots out. And it began, like, you know, they'll recover quicker. They'll be like, "What was in that?" Like, they were just like, "Oh, it's just, you know, just all natural ingredients, just food, like, you know, just functional foods." And
at this point, you're still in the era of, like, there's no superfoods aren't spoken about. It's all like, you know,
precisely.
It's interesting, you know.
And so, but during this time, we'd probably gone for about 100 different blenders. 10 years, like, literally, like, a blend. You'd go for a blend every, honestly,
because it stains everything,
ruins it, and you can't use that blender for anything else. And then as soon as the blades go, like, the root's so fibrous, and we obviously, over that period of time, internally, like, perfected the process of extracting the fresh raw roots and putting it into a blend of other superfood ingredients, which were ultimately delivering this final blend, which was benefiting me. And so, but it was messy. It was, you know, it was ruining kitchen, ruining utensils, and so I was in Harrods.
Which just to quickly explain that, for the average person who, you know, doesn't have an abundance of money to buy blenders, and it's just not
not feasible.
It's not feasible, is
At
it,
all,
to
yeah.
like be ruining
At
your
all,
kitchen?
at
You
all.
know, even like just your worktop, just a stain on your worktop.
Yeah.
You know, like
yeah.
you know.
Turning up to training with orange fingers.
fingers,
Like imagine
yeah.
that. Like, you know, your office work. You can't do it, and that's
Yeah.
why turmeric up until now hasn't been used by people in all walks of life, because it's just not a convenient ingredient to add to your daily nutrition.
Yeah.
So you know, so sort of like things playing in my head, like ringing bells. It's like, well, you know, more people should be using this. And anyway, I was in Harrods and saw turmeric shot on the shelf. I was like, whoa, like literally, like send a pic to my family straight
Sweet.
away, like turmeric
Dad,
shot. Like,
we
boom.
don't need to make these
Don't
shots
need to make it
more.
anymore. Like, you know, we're delighted. Buy the whole shelf. Like literally,
Yeah.
like the
Clear 'em
guys are
out.
clear. Yeah, like they were buzzing that day without looking at the, you know, back of the bottle or anything. I just saw turmeric shot. Was like, yeah, Harrods, like, you know, direct association. This must be high quality, incredible. Like they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
So take the shots home and take them to my old man's house, and everyone's there. We're like, yeah, cool. Like, let's try them together. So everyone like literally goes to drink it. Literally spat it out. Couldn't believe how inferior it was to what we were making at home. It was watery. It was powdered turmeric.
Right.
It wasn't in a bioavailable or absorbable blend, which helps the active compound in turmeric bioavailable in the human body. So there was no, and it was only at that time when I've turned to the back of the bottle and it was like turmeric powder, like, you know,
Right.
apple juice. And it's like, well, apple juice is, you can get like 2 litres of apple juice for £1.50, and they're selling this for, you know, £4. Like, how does that work? Like, it doesn't. So it was just, it was like mind blown. Like, how can this be the case? And obviously they're selling this to customers and to people on the basis of what people are beginning to hear about turmeric, but ultimately people are not going to receive any value from this product whatsoever. So it was at that point, it was like, well, wow.
It's criminal, really, isn't it? When you hear stories like this, because you've actually had the real stuff and made it yourself, it's almost, and then you taste what is on the shelf. You know, it's almost like criminal, isn't it, that you're being sold something? And I would associate the same thing, being honest, mate. In Harrods, I'd look and think,
100%.
mate,
You're buying it, and you're not
it's going to be
thinking
good
twice.
quality stuff.
Yeah, and you'll drink it, and you won't think twice.
Yeah.
And it was like, it was at that point where we're like, how do we bring this to mass market? How do we do it? And we set about on a journey. 18 months, we built a production facility in order to produce at scale, or what we thought was at scale, which, you know, we've far surpassed now, and being able to deliver it to the quality which we were producing it.
Sure.
And then being able to deliver a chilled product all over the UK, like next day delivery and chilled, you know, how do you do, like, the logistics behind it. It was, it's been quite a journey. But 18 months later, we launched beginning of last year, and you know, under the Turmeric Co, and it's just been incredible since we launched. You know, we went into a number of the top gyms in London. We engaged with a lot of nutritionalists around, you know, forward-thinking nutrition and the values of a turmeric shot in an actual formula which has been created for function, not just for the bottom line numbers of a company.
Of course. What was he? Could you explain to me? Because obviously I've tried this product. I love it, by the way. It's great. It's really helpful for my knee. But I notice when I get the boxes through, it's all refrigerated. Is that because, you know, it's not powder? It comes from the raw root, and you have to keep it refrigerated so it can be absorbed, or something like that.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things with it. So it's like, the drinks industry is not an industry which sort of promotes fresh, natural products. The biggest thing in drinks at the minute is pasteurization. And pasteurization, like, we could, for example, pasteurize these shots and you wouldn't need to keep them chilled. But what you're doing by pasteurization is you're destroying 50% of the nutritional value in the shot.
Right.
About 90% of the drinks on the current juice market are pasteurized.
Blimey.
So we don't pasteurize the products, and they're completely fresh, completely natural. And because of that, we use completely fresh ingredients, and because of that, you have to keep them refrigerated. But more to that, it's the actual ingredients we're using inside each shot. We use a base of our product, each shot, as a watermelon. So our production team, slice fresh whole watermelons, flesh, and crush the flesh into a juice, and that becomes the base. So what other turmeric shot companies on the market currently do is they go and get apple juice, where you can buy 5 litres of apple juice for £2, and put apple juice into the turmeric shot, and then add turmeric powder or a cheaply extracted turmeric juice, which is just not the fresh raw root where you're going to get the maximum value from it. So from our perspective, it's like looking at this market and seeing it's been saturated with products which are just utter bull. And it's like, how do you, and a lot of these companies are big companies, by the way, and they've got big backing, big backing. And it's like, how do you penetrate a market and bring a new product to market which has been nutritionally formulated for function, has strong values behind the product which we adhere to, and we want to offer the natural nutrition within each shot to every single customer. We don't want to, dilute the blends as we scale. We want to be able to offer every single shot at the level that I was having them 10 years ago.
The level that your dad was making them.
Precisely. So,
because I was one of them people. I think I told you this. I would go into like certain shops and I'd see the turmeric shots, and then I'd see at the bottom of the bottle it was all like a powder that had to be shaken up and all of this. And then when I met you, I was like, I got to try these things. And that was one of the first things I noticed. It was refrigerated, and there wasn't this powder sitting around the bottom of it, and it tasted different. So it's just great. It's great to hear this story, and it's great to have someone out there that's actually putting a product out there that actually works. It's not a load of rubbish just based on how much money you can earn from the consumer. It's like, actually, what difference am I making?
Precisely. And that's our ambition. We want as many people to use it as possible. And we've looked and we've said, okay, well, how can we bring a product to market? And we don't have the big budgets of, big drinks businesses where they spend, 5-10 million on marketing campaigns a year. Well, it's like, well, who's going to really notice a difference from this range? And it's like, firstly, it's the athletes. So we've got the top nutritionists in the country supporting what we're doing, working alongside what we're doing to bring this range to people, who have to live or die by their health, like athletes. Like if you're in peak condition, you have a chance of being successful. If you're not in peak condition, your chances are diminished. So we're able to offer this product to them, natural food, where they can take it and they'll immediately see the benefits. So we're building an amazing community, amazing group of advocates just off the back of that. But from our perspective, it's like, well, actually, Joe Bloggs, who has an office job and works 9 to 5 on a daily basis, is going to feel better if they start their day with a turmeric shot as opposed to, a coffee or and it's like,
because it boosts your immune system and everything, doesn't it? Turmeric. I read a book about it, like after meeting you it's a book called How Not to Die, and you read up on turmeric. Like the benefits are ridiculous.
It's insane.
It's an insane superfood. It really is. It does so much, but you can see why companies wouldn't go near it, because it's a nightmare to work with.
Of course, you think like these big
stains everything.
These big like production companies, like drinks companies. They don't want turmeric in their production setup. No.
It's so messy.
It's so messy. So we've gone all in. Like we're global trademark of the Turmeric Co. We've got big ambitions. We want to bring this to as many people as possible. but we're doing it from a position of, you know, like, let's advocate natural nutrition. Let's get away from processed foods, processed drinks, you know, drinks which are, you know, gone through various processes which, you know, destroy their nutrition. Like, let's have it in a way where it's actually going to offer you as much value as you would get from having it raw. But then from our perspective, it's like, well, actually, we're going to offer that in a convenient manner. You wake up in the morning, you've got your, you know, fridge stocked of turmeric shots.
That's what you want, isn't it?
On the way to work.
It's got to be easy and accessible, because everyone is just so busy nowadays, especially in London. Like, no one's got time. It just needs to be there and quick and available. So just in perspective to your career now, so you got rid of them tablets. You've now discovered the turmeric, right? Great stuff. I have to talk about the Wales goal against Belgium, right? Because hearing your story, being told by a doctor twice, really, you know, to choose another career path, it's probably not going to work, to then being prescribed this medication, to urinating blood, you know, to then discovering this stuff, which then leads you on to playing for your country and scoring against Belgium, which I think we've actually got the footage for here. Because, I mean, this was like...
Well found. Dinked in towards Robson-Kanu. Taylor's available. What a turn! What a goal! What a goal from Hal Robson-Kanu! What a moment for Wales!
Firstly, mate, that was... What a goal, but Wales done so well in that, didn't they? Like, it was just...
Yeah, it was incredible. For the nation, like, it was... When we were out there, well, when we first qualified, it was massive. Like, because it was the first major tournament in, you know, decades. And it was, that was the achievement in itself. And we'd gone into the first game and when, you know... again, very tough, and we've ended up, you know, I came on, scored the winner, and it was like, well, that's, as you know, it's unbelievable then, like, it's like incredible. And then we've just, we obviously had this momentum from the qualifying campaign, and the group there, we'd been together for, you know, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, the boys who were, you know, it was a tight-knit group, and, you know, the likes of Gareth Bale, Aaron Ramsey, you know, Ashley Williams, Joe Allen, Neil Taylor, you know, Sam Vokes, Chris Gunter, and
you could tell watching it, you guys were like a solid unit. You were like a proper team. You know, obviously I was cheering on England, and you didn't have that an inch near to what you guys had. It was like a proper team unit you had going on there.
And so we just took that momentum into the tournament, and like, we obviously, you know, got through to the out of the group stage, which was a massive achievement, then into, you know, obviously then to the quarters, and it was like, you're up against Belgium, like one of the top teams in the world. And,
and let's have it right, mate. I think a lot of people probably were thinking Belgium's gonna you know, win this game easily.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And you guys went out and 100%. Just absolutely smashed it.
And obviously, you know, did that, and it was just, you know, I was in a state of creation, and it was, you know, I was just letting everything be. And
did that like reinforce your desire to want to bring this product to the market even more? Because you were like, if I can go from being like written off medically by a doctor to then creating this my own superfood supplement, and then going on to achieve that, like scoring a goal against Belgium on the world stage, you don't get much bigger than that, scoring a goal for your country. Did that, like, was like the work? I'm thinking in my mind, did that like reinforce your thing? Was like, I need to get this product out to the world.
100%, yeah, 100%. And it was like, you know, obviously having the career that I'd had, you know, becoming a professional player, getting through that adversity, you know, then breaking into the first team, playing in the Premier League, playing at an international stage, you know, it was like, I'd begun to, you know, achieve what I'd wanted to achieve as a child, and then obviously getting to that level. And when things like that happen in your career, you maybe not straight away, but a bit of time after, you begin to look back.
Yeah.
And obviously that was like, you're like, wow, like that's happened, like that's incredible, like, and 100% it was like, well, actually, like that has played such a massive part of me getting to where I am, and it's like I play pain free now. I shouldn't be playing pain free.
That's
I've got
amazing.
cartilage, like hardly any cartilage in my knee, like 2 reconstructed cruciate knee ligaments.
Yeah.
The cruciate knee ligament is the ligament that holds your knee together.
Yeah, right.
And when you rupture it, your knee has no stability. So the surgery is pulling a graft from either your patella tendon or your hamstring tendon. So they basically pull. So it's a surgery beforehand. They take the tendon from your hamstring and then go into your knee, insert it into your knee, and replace your cruciate knee ligament with this tendon, which was previously connected to your hamstring or your patella. And so I shouldn't be playing, I
you shouldn't be.
Like,
Shouldn't be scoring goals like that.
Yeah. So and obviously to do that once, but then to do that twice, it's
How was that? So was your dad at that game, that Belgium game?
Yeah.
So your dad's
there,
he seemed like he was a rock for you, man. The whole way through. So that must have been like a big celebration for you.
Yeah.
You know, like sort of having your dad there, and your dad has been by your side the whole way, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, they came out to a few games, obviously, when we played England. Yeah. That was quite a big game, and I don't even remember it in the group stages. It was like, playing England, and obviously England scored a goal late on, and it was like, it's a very special moment. But my dad's he's very understated. He's just sort of does what he feels he needs to do.
Big shout out to your dad, mate. He sounds like a legend, man. Yeah, he sounds like he's played a massive part in this story, and the story of the Turmeric company. Putting your heads together and figuring out, how do we fix this problem? Has gone on. I think this product will help a lot of people. It's certainly helped me. I've been taking it, and it's helped my knee. So. And I've been back training heavier than I was before, squatting as well. So, it's massive for me.
Yeah. But the key is obviously, like, with anything natural, it's like consistent. And it's like some people will, be like, okay, 2 weeks. And it's like they expect an instant, solution. And some people,
I was the same, mate. I was the same. I had the products through. I felt an improvement after about 3 or 4 days. I went straight on my Insta story. I documented a 5K run.
Amazing.
And I got like sort of 4K in, and I could feel the pain again. And I think it was too soon. I was like 4 days into it. It was like, give it a bit longer. So,
for real.
but my plan is I'm gonna keep taking this supplements, and really sort of monitor how it's working for me. But I've seen massive results already, So what's next then? What's next? Obviously, you're still with West Brom. You got a family, kids, and all this.
Of course. Obviously, I think when obviously this got going and began to get momentum, obviously. Playing in club football as well, I made the decision to retire from international football last year.
Yes, that's right.
Which was, a tough decision, but again, it's like, I've got a young family, want to spend time with them. You give so much to football, and no one really sees like the commitments that you have to make, the sacrifices. I'm 30 now, and from the age of 17, I've pretty much trained every Christmas day. And that's the same for every athlete. And it's like those sacrifices, New Year's, like you miss New Year's, like you're not with your family, you're in a hotel with the team. And
because the Christmas break, you have like loads of games rammed into that period, don't you, as footballers?
Precisely.
Yeah, because I know there's a game Boxing Day, and then it's all crammed in.
But that's part and parcel of it. And so it's just like, actually, well, do we? I just wanted to be able to give more time to my family, and to obviously the passion of this as well. Yeah,
that's great, man. That's great. Well, mate, just want to say thanks for coming on. And if anyone wants to find you, you're on Instagram, Hal Robson-Kanu.
Yeah, Thomas Hal Robson-Kanu, and then obviously
and find the Turmeric Company. We'll get a shot of this as well.
Yeah.
And I know you guys are running like loads of sort of promotions and stuff like that. You can subscribe on your website as well, can't you?
Yeah, you can subscribe. So you know,
yeah.
monthly subscriptions, bi-weekly subscriptions.
Yeah.
You know, customers are loving what we're doing, because I think more and more people are becoming open to natural forms of nutrition, which can actually, you know, offer function to your day-to-day life.
Of course, yeah.
You know,
and it's worth just remembering that all medication comes from plants. Just the pharmaceutical companies extract it and then sell it to you in a tablet form.
Yeah.
So all you're doing is taking the fresh stuff and saying, here, take it this way.
And it's like, but at the same time, you look like, you know, medication, there's, you know, scientific supporting evidence on specific medications. And it's like, well, this is an option for you to, you know, have a natural supplement to your daily life, and you know, basically a natural food, but in a convenient way. And it's amazing.
Great, good stuff, mate. Well, thanks for coming on.
Thank you
nice
very
one,
much,
buddy. Cheers, mate.
Thank you.